More things from the John Lynch press conference.
Yeah.
He said that he gave 22 first-round grades out. They have picked 31. 22 players. They have high standards. 22 players in this draft are legitimately worth being drafted in round 1. And on top of that, only 16 received gold helmets, which are the best of the best of the best of the best. Those are the players who not only blue chip athletes, but blue chip people. And their characters off the charts. And the Niners are definitely equipped to gauge this because they thought Alden Smith was a gold helmet player once upon a time. So anyway, the players they're most proud of, like they drafted Reuben Foster in round 1, but he wasn't a gold helmet player. They kind of made an exception for him. So that's where they stand.
Yeah.
They're at pick 31. How does that make you feel about their positioning?
Well, it tells me that if they don't trade up and they're at 31, they're not going to. If they can't trade up high enough, right? And who knows what these players are, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's the NFL's top 22. It could be the Niners have their own ratings for these guys, and I'm sure they do. So I don't know. It just leads me to believe if they get to like the 22-ish range, they're not going to trade Brandon Ayuk for somebody that they don't grade. You know, if they can't get one of those 22 guys, they're not trading BA to anybody, because why would you, right? Like that's kind of what it means to me. It's not a lot of players, honestly, and I think they said that's kind of the number they go with. They had that many last year, I think 22. So it's interesting. I think, me personally, I mean, what do I know? I'm just a guy in his office talking 49ers, but when I look at this draft, it seems a lot better than that to me. It seems a lot deeper. But again, this is John Lynch is not giving away his hand right now.
But I think what he's doing is kind of painting himself into a corner. It's like, okay, so let's say they stay put at 30. Let's go through these 3 scenarios, right? You stay put at 31, you trade up, you trade down. Stay put at 31. Make the pick. Then you do the press conference that night. I come out and I say, okay, John, was this guy one of your 22 first-round grades?
Of course
and he's going to say, yeah. Let's say they take Roger Rosengarten in round 1 or some guy, and everyone's like, well, that was a little bit of a reach. Then we say, you have such high standards, right? Only 22 first-round grades. This guy was one of them. And then if he says, yeah, it's like, do people believe you? I'm not going to call him a liar, but it's like it kind of brings up that question. So it makes it tough to stand pat at 31 to me. That now that he said this, trading up to 17 or to 25 and say, we got at 25, this was one of our top 22 players because we didn't have some of the quarterbacks rated that high or whatever. Like that makes sense. Trading down at around 1 altogether makes sense, but staying at 31 seems tough now that he revealed this information.
He did say what, 35 are starters, right? 35 starters. Is that what he said?
No, he was talking about, that was different. He said that there were 80 something players that their front office anticipated would declare for this year's draft that didn't. And 35 of them were projected starters in the NFL. So and we're going to talk about that issue next, the totality of what they're picking from. But right now I want to focus on the first round.
I mean, I see your argument, man. If there's only 22 players, but is that true? Does he really feel that way? And does that mean because his 22, are they the same as the NFL's 22? He even mentioned that it's not necessarily the case. We don't care how the NFL looks at these players. We give them our own grade based on what we see. I think it's a little bit of a bluff. I honestly think they like Roger Rosengarten. I think they have a first round grade on that guy, but they're not going to grab him in the first.
It's just that's incredible to me. Like to say we have high standards. We have 22 first round grades, and to stay at 31 and to take someone that like the rest of the league kind of sees as a second round pick and say, yeah, this was one of our top players. I don't know.
He's not going to say no to you, right? If you ask him, was this guy a gold standard player or one of your top 22? He's absolutely
no, but your credibility is going to look a little thin if that guy's not good.
Yeah, that's true.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I think they go defensive tackle first round, Roger Rosengarten second round. That's what I think. At some point they might
see that for sure.
Move up,
and it's possible that some defensive tackle who's really good falls to 31 because so many teams are focused on getting wide receivers and offensive tackles and quarterbacks. It's possible.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, Hall sometimes falls down. Byron Murphy falls down. Darius Robinson. I did a mock draft with Croc this morning. That's Croc's favorite player in this draft. He'll be available. He's like, he could be edge or D tackle. So there's a lot of guys that I think the 49ers are going to be excited about on the defensive line at that spot. I think that's where they go.
I do think the first team's interested in the gold helmets because I keep coming back to the Jaguars. And theoretically, if you get that pick from the Jaguars, you get a gold helmet player. So
it would not surprise me.
Was Brandon Ayuk a gold helmet player? I don't know about that. At pick 25, I don't know about that. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
To me, he is. If I had to give out a gold helmet to people on this team, Brandon Ayuk would get one for whatever it's worth. Brandon,
they didn't make him a captain,
and they should have.
Remember that show? Everybody Hates Chris. They should make a show called Everyone Hates Brandon.
I don't understand it, man. He is.
I don't get it.
Exactly what I would want from a football player.
I just feel like a trade would be better for both sides. I think it's very much like the AJ Brown situation. AJ Brown was getting about 100 targets a year on the Titans. They want to run the ball with Derrick Henry. He got traded to the Eagles and he started getting 150 targets a year. And they still haven't won the Super Bowl, but at least they can say that they're getting some bang for their buck.
If this is Debo's last year with the 49ers, do you still feel
what makes you think it is, man? He's like great friends with Kyle Shanahan. Great friend.
Because dude's about to be 30 years old. He's already on the decline, if we're being real. He's about to be 30.
Are we, though? Is Kyle? Kyle gave him 11 targets in the Super Bowl. How real is Kyle?
Well, he 11. Went 3 for 11 on those targets, so they need to wake up in regards to that.
Yeah, you thought you'd think after like the 7th or 8th target, Kyle would be like, you know what? This isn't working. I'm going to go somewhere else. But no, he believed in Debo.
Yeah, that is his boy. I mean,
his boy.
I could, from that perspective, yeah, it makes sense. But from an actual, like, let's watch football games, Debo Samuel should be, because he can. There's an out for him after this year. He's very expensive. I would roll with BA. I'd roll one more year with Debo. Then he's about to be 30 years old. Do they really think a 30-year-old Debo should be in their plans for the future? I don't see that.
Would you rather spend? I mean, what Ayuk's going to get is like $28 million a year. That's like what Trent Williams is making. He's going to get franchise left tackle money. So would you want it? Would you rather spend franchise left tackle money on Brandon Ayuk or trade him for a franchise left tackle if you can?
I would do it. I would do it.
We talked about it. We talked about it. Maybe they won't have the option. Maybe they won't have the option.
Yeah.
But if they do,
to me, the receivers are the new running backs in a way, right? Like, it's not that hard to find a good receiver. I hate to say that. I mean, Brandon Ayuk's kind of the perfect player, but you can find good receivers. There's a lot in this draft. So, again, I understand either way, no matter which way they go. I would just, my gut feeling says they're going to roll with this BA. I think they'd rather have that BA contract, because reality is $27 million a year with BA. That really doesn't hit you until 2 years from now. And at that point, that'll probably be a bargain for Brandon Ayuk. You know, receivers are probably getting 30+ million at that.
Yeah.
When that happens. He already makes 30 million, you know?
Yeah. Still, though, I mean, you can get wide receivers. He's really good, but there's always really good wide receivers. It's hard to get left tackles, and they inherited Joe Staley. They drafted Mike McGlinchey at 9, thinking he could become a left tackle. He couldn't. And then they got bailed out by Washington being Washington and blowing up their relationship with Trent Williams.
Are you trying to win a Super Bowl this year by trading Brandon Ayuk?
I mean, yeah. Okay, and I'm going to explain why. Because if you trade Brandon Ayuk, let's say you trade Brandon Ayuk for Fatanu, and you start him at guard for a year, and then you trade down from 31 and take a wide receiver like 35 or 36 or something like that, where you took Debo, you still have the best group of weapons in the league. You still do, with Debo and Kittle and Juwan Jennings and McCaffrey and rookie wide receiver taken at the top of round 2. You still do. And now your offensive line's a lot better. A lot better. Yes, you just got better.
When I look at the 49ers, when I look at the 49ers wide receivers, I see one receiver on this whole team, which is Brandon Ayuk. Juwan Jennings, he's okay. He's more of like a possession. He's like a skinny tight end. Debo Samuel's not really a wide receiver. They have one receiver on this team, and that's Brandon Ayuk, and you're going to get rid of
Kittle's
him.
A receiver. Kittle's a receiver. I mean, Kittle should be getting more targets anyway. He gets like 90 a season. He should be getting. I mean, when Kelsey was his age at 30, 31, he was getting 150 targets a season. If Kittle were on the Chiefs, he'd be getting 150 targets a season. Like, there's more there for him. Yeah, I agree with you on Deebo Samuel. McCaffrey's getting a ton of reps, like a ton of touches. And I'm assuming the wide receiver they would take wouldn't be a stiff that they would get at the top of round 2.
You could be right. I mean, I understand both angles. Me personally, as if I'm running an organization, I don't want to spend money on wide receivers at all. I'm focusing on the trenches, but Brandon Ayuk really is. He feels like DeForest Buckner. That's what this feels like to me. You're trading DeForest Buckner again, and you're rolling with Armstead and Kinlaw. Like, that's what this feels like to me. That's my worry. You get rid of Brandon Ayuk, who is literally the perfect receiver damn near. I mean, maybe he could be a little faster. Other than that, he does everything you want from him. You're moving on from that to get Kinlaw or rolling it all on Deebo, who is Armstead. Like, that's what this feels like. That situation all over again.
I agree. I think there's a lot of parallels to that situation. It just seems like that situation would have worked out fine if they had taken the offensive tackle. But instead, they were dead set on taking a player to replace the player they drafted. And if they do that, I think that's a mistake. If they trade Brandon Ayuk so they can move up to 17 and take another wide receiver, like, well, that young man's going to be compared to Brandon Ayuk the rest of his career, and he's not going to be better than Brandon Ayuk anytime soon, and that's a tough one. But if you trade up for a franchise left tackle, you could win that trade.
Are they gun shy about moving up for Mike, or not moving up, but drafting Mike McGlinchey? Do they regret doing that? Because did they get their drafts worth out of getting Mike McGlinchey? Did they learn, hey, let's not do that. Let's wait for a Rosengarten in the second, because we got a 5th rounder, a 4th rounder, an undrafted guy, all on our right side right now, and they work just fine.
Possible.
Right? That could be their
You don't want to trade you don't want to trade up to 17. You don't want to trade Brandon Ayuk for a right tackle, a guy who can't replace Trent Williams one day. Yeah. But if you really feel like this guy isn't like McGlinchey, this guy is a left tackle, and that's why I think Fatano makes sense, because he legitimately played left tackle in college. Maybe you do it. Because again, how are you going to replace Trent Williams? What's the plan there? It's not Jalen Moore.
I think for me, the thing is, I would be thrilled with what you're talking about, but I think it's okay. Admit that this is kind of a retooling year then, because to me, if you take out the only receiver on this whole team, the only real receiver on this whole team, and bet on a rookie, you're not that serious about winning the Super Bowl this year. This is
you played well as a rookie on this team. I played real well as a rookie on this team. Deebo played real well as a rookie on this team.
I'm not saying that there aren't receivers that could play well, but I'm saying you have a guy that you know is really freaking good, and you're trading him to gamble on another rookie.
The number 1 receiver on the Chiefs last year was a rookie.
Again, it's possible. And I made the argument that they're the new running backs, right? You can get them. I'm just saying that you know what you have in Brandon Ayuk. It's a little risky to me, a little bit risky to move on.
It's also the same team that picked Brandon Ayuk. I mean, it's Kyle. We're talking Kyle now, right? This is Kyle's thing. Kyle picked Brandon Ayuk. Kyle picked Deebo. Kyle knows exactly what he wants from his. He also picked Dante Pettis, but I feel like he's gotten better. He also picked Danny Gray.
There's a few bad ones. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, look, no one knows. I mean, it is all a crapshoot. It's true.
Yeah.
It is true, but it doesn't mean that you need to spend. You can't extend every single person. You can't. Eventually, you can't. Yeah. And they've extended everyone so far.
You can't extend every person. I feel like they're extending the wrong people. Like, Brandon Ayuk is the guy you extend. That's the guy you extend. Like, I've been saying it for 3 years. Like, if he does everything right, if you pay Brandon Ayuk, he doesn't seem like the type of guy that gets paid and falls off. He seems like he has that competitiveness in him. It's just who he is. He's always
okay. Well, one more argument though. Like, did he kind of have an outlier season this year? I mean, I mean, his yards per catch were way up. His completion, his yards per catch were way up. He never had a season like that before. I mean, is he really going to duplicate that on his 100 targets a season? Is he really going to put up 1,300 yards again?
I think Brandon Ayuk could put up way more. What did he have? 7 targets?
No, he had like 100 and he had 77, like 75 catches, like 175
catches. I mean,
yeah,
his numbers could get better than they were. Maybe the yards per catch will go down, but he can get more touchdowns. He can have more
volume.
He could have more volume. Yeah, definitely. He's not even his peak yet. I think Brandon is going to be better over these next 2 years than he was this past year.